Yo, what's going on? Kunal here, Bulls on Wall Street. Guys, sorry for the late watch list. Taught 2 classes today, making some new stuff. You know how it goes. Just got done with our 60-day boot camp. Got a great group of students right now. Class gets a little juicy sometimes on those big Tuesdays. But let's talk about the markets here. We have had a nice push off the oversold reading. And now we're kind of running and grinding into Thursday's CPI print, which is probably going to be benign. What I mean by benign is the market's already priced in kind of what's going to happen, right? That the inflation's dead, interest rates are coming down, unless it's some nasty surprise. Like even if the CPI misses, so before a year ago, if the CPI even missed, down over here, if it even missed by 0.1, market was tanking 3%, 2%, 5%, all sorts of nastiness, right? Now the ranges have compressed, right? The CPI is much lower than it was, but in general, like if you miss by say 0.1 or something like that, you may gap down and the market buys it up, right? Because it's just not, there's no difference between 3.1 and 3.2. We're past the whole inflation is going to ruin our lives kind of part of the market. So just got to be mindful of that as we go into CPI. But we are grinding back into these highs as we thrust into the CPI. Same thing with the old SPY, right? Big thrust yesterday, a little bit of an inside day today. That's to be expected. And, obviously we still have the all-time highs in our sights. We have to just, at this point, trade the price action. Is this a dead cat bounce or is this part of something a little bit more sinister? Well, no. If this ends up being a lower high, then, right, we may zigzag around back down, into these kind of, right, zones. But at this point, we just don't have any evidence of that. And without any evidence of that, what are we supposed to do, right? We can't just sit there, right? And, we can't sit there and make predictions. So if we start to, right, push our way back down like that, all right, like let's, we can take that. But if we're just going to sit here, right, and this pops through and then we start to bust loose, hey, man, that price action, we got to respect it, right? We got to come in and we got to respect the shit out of it. We just don't know. So just watch that in. Is it a lower high? Is it not? Let's take a look at market breadth here. Market breadth had a decent pullback. You got from almost the 78, 79 down into 62 in the T2108. Relieve some tension. That, I think, is going to be important. The price action has been solid, but there hasn't been that many breakouts. Yesterday there was a good amount of breakouts. Today the market kind of went red to green and ramped up. I thought today's action was really bullish. Not very many breakouts, but the market did gap down a little bit at the open. So, you got to kind of be a little bit mindful of that. Like this kind of price action is bullish, right? So you get the gap down and then you rebound all the way back, go green, break the previous day's high. That's like your ideal scenario. When you think about like after a bullish day, what's the ideal open? You want a small gap down, 0.5%, 0.8%, whatever. And right, and then you've got all this room to the upside versus a gap up, which may stretch it. So just something to kind of keep in the back of your heads. Let's take a look at the watch list here. There's some good names that are coming out. First things first, there were a lot of biotechs that came up on my scans today. There were a lot of these names, like SRPT announced some guidance, but there were like all these kind of medical companies, medicals, biotechs. A lot of these names were like breaking range. So I would do a little bit of a deep dive into the biotech sector. You can go in on your T-Styles and whip out like any sector and just dig through the charts and, run like some kind of, small screen in between. But there were a lot of these, like this kind of shit, right? Like I normally wouldn't trade something like this, but man, it's got the liquidity and right, it's not like a pump and dump type of name. It's got a big enough float on it. Like you can, trade stuff like this. So there's a lot of biotechs on the list. VKTF. I had a trigger on this for like a damn 2 weeks, and I forgot about it today. My alert came. By the time my alert came off, it was a little bit too high. But This looks great too, right, for a potential day 2 play. So let's get into the watch list here. There's a couple names of companies that announced some guidance that I think could be good day 2 plays. SRPT had a nice run, big trend on this. I think it's a good candidate. If you get a week open on this, we red to green it, some type of day 2 play. AYI, clearing out all these levels here, right? Clearing out all these levels and making an attempt at some all-time highs here. Dude, I mean, that's like a big thing. Not many stocks do that. We know that all-time highs tend to beget more all-time highs, and the bigger the base, the sweeter the juice, right? So we've got a big base here. Man, that's a Butamus Maximus if I've ever seen one, right? That's nice. The only thing that makes this not some dime is that it's only 1.2 million shares in volume. So it's going to have a pretty good range. It's a $6 billion company. It's got low float on it. But it's not going to give you the liquidity to be like sashaying around in it. So do be mindful of your size, especially the liquidity at the open. If there's a spread, smaller size, half size, quarter size, whatever, let the range pay you. But it's a good looker. VKTX, man, I had a trigger on this. I missed it today. But this is, if it gaps down tomorrow, you get a week open on this. I think we try to take this one for red to green. TWST, I want to get some of these diagnostics, healthcare, biotechs, anything medically into the watch list. They're a little bit unwatched, and so they'll tend to move a little bit cleaner. Guys, if you're trying to trade right now, like freaking Mara or something, right? I've been trading it too, but it's hard when you do so much volume. It's like, you trade Tesla and you got damn 100 million shares of just algo juice up on your face. Like, anything can happen. These will move a little bit cleaner. You can't get the same size, but frankly, who's really out there trading, 50,000 shares of stuff, right? Like something like this at this much liquidity and float, like you can still, if you want to trade 2,000 shares, 3,000 shares, whatever, like you can do it just fine. Old Crunk, this is another biotech stock. Look at this. Right, you've cleared out all sorts of levels here on the daily, right? All sorts of levels here. Now you built out a flag of recent 50 million share float. You got a nice little location on this. A little bit thin too, so just be mindful of that. I got NWST. This is a healthcare sector, medical instruments. Big base breakout setting up over here. This got a little bit more liquidity, but I think these kind of names, if the market gets hot, these bottom names are going to get picked up, right? We can't always just trade NVIDIA. Right now, great, the last couple days, NVIDIA's been awesome, but you can't always be trading that, right? Like tomorrow, NVIDIA's probably going to be dead. It's like getting extended, so you're going to need some other names. UEC, you got 688 breakout on this one. It's got some good chase. DoorDash, man, fuck these guys, but this awesome chart, right? you got nice, right? First of all, you get a big trend on this thing. Pretty good mover. It's got a nice ATR on it for the most part, 3 points. I think once it breaks here, the ATR should expand a little bit too. You got 103.20 kind of spot on this thing. It may need an inside day, right? Inside day is just like a light open and a chop round day before it goes, but keep an eye on that one. I think Zscaler's got some room here, right? If you're just looking at the action on crowd, look at the action on crowd, right? The old Zscaler probably got a little juice on it for you. And what? Pass on this. This hard to trade. Now PDD, I like this one. Look at this thing. So you got flat top breakout on this. Relative strength too, right? China stock's been like shit, but this thing is holding up. You got good range on this today. 145, 151. Dude, why not? Right? And out of these kind of bigger names, right, the Google probably is the slowest. You'd have to trade the options on it to really get the cheese you need. But it's got a good look to it. And you can see, like, if you trade the calls on it, it moves pretty good. So that's the thing. That's the good thing with the calls, right? You can get some good spots on that. Now, on the other side, like on your more speculative names here, like, we'll see what happens. There's all these rumors today on the Bitcoin ETF. My guess is it's a sell the news event, but that might be too obvious. So it may dump, then rip back, break out, dump again. It's going to be all over the place. If your trading skills are a little bit slow these days, you're new, you don't got to be involved in this, man. You could get chopped up, you could get faked out. There's a lot of things that happen. You got to be so nimble, right? It's like you go red to green, looks like a breakout, then it dumps, then it looks like it's going to break lows, and then it rips back, goes, like there's a lot that goes. There's more thinking that goes into something like this. You got to be so nimble. Your fingers got to be like, right, maestros. You've been pulling, the one-eye snake for years before you get wrist that strong. So just be mindful. I think these things, they're in weird spots. My guess is they dump, but that might be too obvious. Some of these other names, the IWM basket of names for risk has been very, very mute. The action's been more in the big cash, so keep an eye on these. If they play catch-up, they're dead right now. The action has been in your NVIDIA AMDs, stuff like that. One to keep an eye on is maybe this Roku if it gets over the 20 SMA. Like I said, I got coin on watch for bear flag and all these things, but I do think it's going to be a tough trade. Like, I just don't know if it's worth it for some people. When you look at something like this, it's like, dude, do you want this kind of smoke? Right? Do you really want this kind of smoke? I don't know, man. Sometimes, I know I'm a degenerate, so I'm going to do it, but it's going to be stressed. You got to be fast. You got to be scalping in and out and do all this shit, and it's a lot of work, right? So just keep an eye on some of these other names. But, dude, NVIDIA's got this huge gap. If it gaps up, like let's say 550 tomorrow, or it makes a run to 550 tomorrow, I think we could take it down for a day. Not like any kind of investments, and don't be sending me dirty text messages that NVIDIA is the future of the world. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm just talking about for one day of love. If this thing gets up, let's watch this thing. Let it break out this 542. Then we'll watch for a fizzle out. We'll see what's going on. Tomorrow might be it's Wednesday before the CPI. Maybe a little bit of maybe some positioning going on here back and forth. So just be tight on some stuff. All right, peace.